Oh, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Oh, that's about the most ironic thing you'll ever see, because we're about to show you that everything that Jill Biden said in that speech was a lie. In fact, she admitted it. Tell us about it, Yes.
Yeah, so it's wild, and you got to have the context a little bit. That was Dr. Jill Biden, of course, and that was immediately after that disastrous debate between her husband, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump. And this was back during the 2024 presidential campaign. They only had one debate between the two of them before Joe Biden dropped out. But you know what, benefit of the doubt, you might be thinking, of course she's gonna back up her husband, and of course she's gonna gas him up following that debate. She probably actually believes everything she's saying there because she loves her husband and she believes in him. But apparently, no, these people are all just a bunch of liars. So 2 years after all of this, 2 years later, Dr. Jill is now promoting a book. So naturally, she is dropping some crumbs because she wants to entice us all. And her book drops next week. So while on her promotional tour, she mentioned that during the 2024 debate, what she really thought was that her husband was actively having a stroke on that stage. So Joe Biden did not drop out of that race until 3 weeks after that debate. And during that entire time, Biden and his surrogates, including his wife, insisted that he was absolutely fine and fit for office. So I'll show you what she actually said. Let's watch.
Were you horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes, or
You've
since.
Never seen him like
never.
that?
No.
Why did it happen?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
So just a reminder, at the time, Joe Biden's debate performance was so bad that both Democrats and Republicans were calling it out. There were calls from across the aisle for Joe Biden to drop out of the race, including from Cenk. You were very vocal about that, if I recall. And immediately after the debate at a fundraiser, his wife also had this to say about it. Even she was trying to defend him. She said, "So let's talk about last night's debate because I know it's on your minds." As Joe said earlier today, he's not a young man. And after last night's debate, he said, Jill, I don't know what happened. I didn't feel that great. And I said, look, Joe, we are not going to let 90 minutes define the 4 years that you've been president.
Oops.
And that's fair. 90 minutes doesn't have to define your entire presidency, but don't act like that was a good debate performance when everyone can see that it was not, and that he was not okay, and that he was not fit for the presidency. And just a quick refresher before I get your thoughts on this, Cenk, I do want to take a moment to remind our viewers of exactly how that debate went.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, and I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look.
What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies, dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay. Thank you. And by the way,
so every day.
That was hard to watch, and it was hard to watch at the time. And again, for 3 weeks, it was actually 24 days after that, they insisted that he was fine. And it took him that long to finally drop out of the race, at which point the primaries had already passed. So they just gave us Kamala Harris. It was a controversial decision to say the least. Cenk, what are your thoughts on Dr. Jill Biden coming out and confessing this 2 years after the fact?
I think Jill Biden is one of the worst people in the country, and I don't hesitate in saying that. So I'm gonna come back to her in a second. You're right, I certainly vocally oppose Biden to say the least. We did a petition that a lot of you guys signed a year before that debate, because it was obvious, it was super obvious. He would give speeches and forget everything. He would shake hands with invisible people. And all of American media pretended he was totally fine. As long as someone in power says something, the morons in American media will just regurgitate it. They're not reporters at all. So then afterwards, Jake Tapper did that comical book, like OJ, like If I Did It. Like, yeah, bro, don't tell me that you found the culprit. I know who the culprit is, it's you. It was cable news, it was mainstream media who covered up for that. So I was so desperate to get Biden out of the race that I ran against him as a protest candidate. Now, guys, at the time when we did the petition, then I run, and everybody's saying, "Oh, you're nuts. Joe Biden is in great shape. He's the best. Not only can he beat Donald Trump, they would constantly said he's the best Democrat in the country to beat Donald Trump." I heard that a million times. So I was super animated back then. You see me, if you watch the Young Turks regularly now, super animated about Israel, etc. Why? Because when there is something that is plainly obvious and everyone else gaslights you, come to the Young Turks, because we're not gonna gaslight you. Our job is to actually deliver the news for you, and I will get angry on your behalf. So when that was happening, I'm like, why do we wanna lose to Trump? I don't wanna lose to Trump. All these guys telling me that Trump's a fascist and he's gonna destroy the country. Okay, fine, great. I agree, I'm super worried about Donald Trump, right? They're like, but we're okay with Joe Biden. I'm like, well, how could you be okay with that guy running against him? What is wrong with you guys? They're like, nope, perfectly healthy. Jill Biden told us, and Joe Biden told us, and they're in power. We all have to bow down to people in power. No, we don't. We could actually challenge their lies. And in fact, in journalism, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. So we did that super aggressively on the Young Turks. And by the way, as always, when we tell the truth, it hurt us. Well, people attacked us, oh, they're not really on the left, they're trying to help Trump. I'm like, why do you want to lose to Trump? They're like, shut up, we're in the middle of losing to him. Okay, tell everybody that Cenk's a right winger and Anna's a right winger, and they're trying to help Trump by getting a competent candidate against him who could actually win. But no, nobody listened. Everybody in power lied. Everyone in media lied. Oh, he's perfectly fine. Now, let's get to Jill Biden, one of the worst liars in the country. And here's my rankings for top egomaniacs in the country. Trump is number one because he's just invincible on that category. Everything's about him, right? But Joe Biden is a close number two. Did Joe Biden not know his mental condition? No, he knew it, but he didn't care. He was like, I'm gonna hold on to power. I don't care if I have no brain left. I don't care if I can't say a single sentence. I don't care if I'm not running the country and Jill's running the country and for domestic policy and Blinken is running foreign policy for Israel. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna lie to the American people as long as it's about me, 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 me. My party loses, who cares? The country loses, who cares? Joe Biden kept talking about how we were gonna lose democracy itself if Trump won. But meanwhile, privately, he's thinking, who cares? Who cares as long as I stay in power? Oh, another Democrat could do a better job of beating Trump, and who cares? Me, 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 me. One of the largest egomaniacs in American history. Number 3 on that list is Jill Biden. No, I'm gonna keep power. You look super evil. American media told us, oh, Jill Biden, what a beautiful, lovely person. Now I wanna break down the 2 lies there, yes. Because the one lie is obvious. She was said on that stage, and she said in all the interviews afterwards, no, Joe's fine. He was great in the debate. He's totally fine. He's in fantastic shape, and he nailed it in that debate, right? Now she says, oh yeah, I was lying. I thought he had a stroke in the middle of the debate. Okay, thank you for admitting that you're a pathological liar and that you did it for your ego, right? But there's the second set of lies that I think are even worse, because she's still lying today. She's like, oh, it never happened before the debate, and it hasn't happened since the debate. Why is she saying that? Oh, because she wants to cover her tracks. Oh no, I didn't see it before the debate. I wasn't trying to secretly run the country myself because my husband's brain fell out of his ear. He can't think at all, so I made all the decisions. Do you know that Dr. Jill Biden sat in on interviews for cabinet level positions? She was running the country, not Joe. And she wanted to keep it that way. So that's why she's lying to you today. I'm glad she's so greedy that she wanted to sell some books, so she's accidentally telling on herself. And then nothing happened since the debate. He's perfectly cogent since then. Oh, first of all, we saw him after the debate. He was a hot mess back then. And if that's true, and if Dr. Jill Biden and Joe Biden would like to prove me a liar, I've been very tough on them. They can come on the Young Turks and I'll interview Joe Biden and see if he's up to it. Now he's not gonna do that. He's not gonna do it with the Young Turks, but honestly, he's not gonna do it with anyone. You know why? Because he has dementia. And he's had it for a long, long time. And Dr. Jill Biden has been hiding it the whole time because she's a terrible person who's a giant egomaniac and a disgusting liar who endangered her party, her voters, and her country for her own ego. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just so confused as to how she thought this revelation would go over. What did she think the dialogue would be after she admitted that she thought he was having a stroke during that debate performance? We all watched it with her, and we all remember the way that they excused it immediately after the fact, and up until now, really, they're still defending that. They're saying, "Oh, he still would have been better than Trump." I don't know. It's such a weird argument. It was such a weird place that we found ourselves as a country. We never should have been in that position in the first place when we have two 80-ish-year-old men fighting for the presidency of this country. Like, neither of them should have been up there on that stage, standing at those podiums. And honestly, I really am just so sick of these people holding our entire country hostage, and by extension, the entire world, just for the sake of their own egos or for their own bank accounts. It's really just tired at this point. And for Joe Biden, he was willing to lie to everyone, including himself, and refuse to step down when he obviously should have, just for the sake of his 80-year-old ego. It's unbelievable. And then for everyone who has come to his defense, right? All those people, and then the people who have come and gone from government, people who once had positions of authority, people who once had an inside information, an inside track to actually know what was going on. They just withhold all the information at the time that it is relevant and pertinent to the American people, just because they're planning to write a tell-all book later to make some money. They're saying, you know what, we have a lot of information that would be really helpful to everybody right now, but I'm not gonna come out and say it. Instead, I'm gonna sell it back to you after the fact, after when I no longer have any consequences that can get me, or until, even if I wanted to do something, there's nothing that I can do anyway because I'm no longer in that position of authority. And that's the thing that I think doesn't get talked about a whole lot, is once you admit to something, you kind of have to do something about it, especially when you're in a position of power, which is, I think that's one of the main reasons why we don't hear our Congress people actually say the things that we need them to say out loud, because the minute that they say something, they have to stand by it and people expect them to act on it. And sometimes they just don't want to for whatever reason. They have lobbied interests, they have personal interests, they have monetary interests, whatever it is. They don't want to do the thing that they were elected to do, and so they just don't say the things that they need to say.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.